Hi, I'm Sid Wood, the owner of Riverdance Gold Mining. Today I want to talk about the Riverdance Mini Jig. I'm going to show you how it works, and I'm going to start with setup, we're going to do operation, and then I'll show you the actual clean out. So before we begin, let's talk about what we're looking at here. This is a single unit. It's a modular duplex mineral jig. And by modular, I mean that the center section, it's removable as one piece. The motor assembly is removable as one piece, and then the frame and rocker arm is one piece as well. Now, this comes in two different versions. It comes in a 30 mesh screen size and a 60 mesh screen size for roughing the material or screening to a super fine concentrate. In the back, this motor assembly comes with two alligator clips, hooks to a 12-volt battery for power supply. It drives this cam, which is connected to a rocker arm, and that rocking motion is what gives it the jigging action. A mineral jig is named for the up and down motion that unsettles the material that's being fed into it. Water overflows from underneath out the front of the jig, and that jigging motion is pushing the material up and sucking it down, and heavy material is allowed to fall down to the screen or through the screen, and all the light material washes out the front. So in the center here, the largest section of the jig, we have these two cells that are called hutches. That's where the water is introduced, and it fills with water through this water intake manifold. The water is introduced to both cells at the same time. It flows up through the screen, through a bed of jig shot, and then out the front of the machine. Because this unit requires so little power, you can operate the pump and the motor at the same time off the same battery. Now, water is beginning to fill each hutch or cell. There's water flowing out the bottom through the underflow tubes. That's where the concentrates are going to come out once we start adding material. And now it's starting to fill up to the top and overflow out the front of the jig. Because of the jigging action, the Riverdance Mini Jig needs a lot less water than a sluice box, which is one of the reasons it doesn't wash away the fine gold. Now that we have water overflowing, I'm going to turn on the motor and begin the jigging action. And we can go ahead and start introducing the material. And you can introduce this material pretty quickly. You don't have to be careful. You can feed it in as long as the material's still moving and the jigging motion is bouncing it up and down, you're fine. In fact, the more material you add, the more efficient these machines become. It enhances the bedding. So the jig shot was your beginning of the bedding. As you add more material, more heavy material, including gold, sinks to the bottom of the tray and creates a more substantial bedding. That means less light material can get down into the bottom of the tray and travel down through the screen into your concentrates. So as you're doing this, the heaviest material, gold, continues to collect at the bottom on the tray or sink through that screen at the bottom of the tray and down into your concentrates bucket. Now I'm going to manually move some of this material from the first cell to the second. Usually all the gold is going to be collected in the first tray, and unless you introduce an awful lot of material, that's going to be the case. As you overflow or overload the first tray, any gold is going to be trapped in the second tray. So you've got quite a bit of leeway with these machines. They will take an awful lot of material before they start to overflow. You can see I'm getting down to the jig shot in this first tray. And the second tray is still mostly jig shot and a few larger rocks. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and keep the jigging action going as the water drains out of here, just to make sure I get the most most of the concentrates or any lingering concentrates out of the hutch. And then give it a little more water. All right, and I'll let that drain out. Now, if you look in the top of this Riverdance Mini Jig, you're gonna see rocks, and you're gonna see some larger sand, and you're gonna see the jig shot. Down under that, resting right on top of the screen, is where all the gold is gonna be. Anything that's too big to fit through the screen. We're gonna see that in just a second. But before we do that, down underneath the machine in this bucket, this concentrates bucket, is where everything that was heavy and it was minus 30 mesh size, so very small, gets collected in there. So any gold that is minus 30 is going to be down in that bucket. Any gold that's plus 30 is going to be up in these trays. If I was to run this through a Riverdance Mini Jig with 60 mesh screen, my concentrates would be even smaller. I'd have much less material to pan out or to run across a miller table, say. Let's go ahead and begin the clean out process so you can see how easy this is to do and how quickly you can clean one of these out. And this is a very lightweight unit. You can actually remove this whole section by taking a total of 6 bolts out. If you'd like to just remove this to clean these out. I like to just turn the whole thing upside down, but if you want, you just take these 2 bolts and the 2 on the other side, and these 2 bolts on the rocker arm, and then this whole assembly lifts up, and you can clean it out completely that way if you prefer. But the simple method is just to turn it and dump it out. Oh, and look at that. There is lots of gold in tray number 1, and there's a little bit of gold in tray number 2. Okay, now I'm gonna clean it the rest of the way out. I'm gonna use a little bit of water and spray this down. The next part is just to wash the screen out, and it's really simple. I am just gonna use a hose, a garden hose, and turn this upside down, and be careful not to lose any gold. I'm using this bucket. Normally I would probably use a bigger bucket, but I wanna show you what this is gonna look like. Okay, a little bit more. Oh yeah, that's looking great. A lot of gold in there. All right. I'm gonna put this in this gold pan so you can see how much gold is actually in here. This is pretty cool. All right, let's do this real quick. Just give you an idea of what we're looking at. Oh yeah, woo, that is pretty. Now that we have recovered most of the gold, we're gonna finish cleaning out just to make sure we didn't miss anything. You notice I dumped that whole jig upside down, and it's definitely possible that some of the gold came out with the jig shot and the rocks. It'd be kind of weird if it didn't. So we're gonna go ahead and separate all the jig shot out first, and that'll leave us with just the rocks and any gold that's in there. And I like to do this with a little bit of water in the bucket because magnetic material can trap other material with it. When you pick it up with the magnet, it can have pieces of gold stuck to it. So with the water, I can kind of wash it off before I transfer it. And hopefully leave all the gold in the concentrates bucket. This helps me clean, but it also helps me recover the jig shot so I can use it again. You can use this over and over and over. Oh yeah, And I see gold already. This is so cool. I love seeing little pieces of gold as I'm doing this. It's great. And this is a really quick process, only takes a minute or two. Just gotta get the steel out of here. And it leaves you with really easy to pan concentrates here, because everything that isn't gold is pretty big. All right, so this is everything that was in the tray. Again, that came out when I dumped it upside down. When I dumped the Riverdance Mini Jig upside down. And as you can see, there's not much there to weed through. And I saw quite a bit of gold in here, and there's quite a bit of gold in what I sprayed off of the screen after I turned it upside down. So between the two, that's all the plus 30 gold. And then in the concentrates is where all the minus 30 gold is gonna be. And I know there's at least one piece of gold in there because I saw it as I was emptying it out of the tub. See how that piece, this is gold right there, but do you see how that was floating around? That's why a sluice box often misses gold, because it can float pretty easily if it's flat or if it's really small. The surface tension of the water, especially if the gold is dry, when it gets introduced to the sluice, it can float it right out like it was a piece of, like a leaf or something. That's why a mineral jig is so good, because there's much less water flow, and it's going to keep all those pieces of gold in the machine. All right, so there's that one. And I'm gonna pan all these out in the same bucket, because I like to save my tailings, because you just never know. Sometimes you miss something when you're panning too. I can always run this again. Woo. Starting to see it. Oh yeah. So cool. All right, so there it is. The Riverdance Mini Jig by Riverdance Gold Mining in Wasilla, Alaska, traps all the gold. And not only does it get all the gold on the first try, it separates it by size and weight. So you have a plus 30 fraction and a minus 30 fraction to help you decide what you want to target next time. Now this thing is lightweight, it's durable, you can pack it, you can throw it in the truck, whatever you want. If you can walk there, you can take this and find some gold. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned gold miner, this is the right product for you. Never miss a piece of gold again. The Riverdance Mini Jig is made right here in Wasilla, Alaska, and I can't wait to build one for you.